Welcome to Alpha Wolf Trading. Did you know that there's over 12,000 stocks or companies that trade on the OTC? Between the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange, you have over 7,000 companies. But us as retail investors, we wouldn't know that unless we were researching. Because why? Wall Street focuses on the elite, the big companies. And where the retail investor has their advantage is in small and micro-cap stocks. Why? Because you have the opportunity to speak directly with leadership. That is what this is all about here at Alpha Wolf Trading. We're trying to find the hidden gems, and we interview the executive teams of companies that we think meet the parameters to be those hidden gems. I also want to make sure you understand that this is not a paid-for promotion. I collect no compensation for the interviews I do here. These companies that I interview have been identified as potential opportunities for me and the members of Alpha Wolf Trading to receive a higher than average return on our investment. These companies I have identified either because of a technical setup on a chart, a fundamental change within the organization, new management team, new products, all kinds of different things that actually lead me here. But what do I think is the most important? Leadership. And that is why I do these interviews. I want to understand what drives the person that is leading the charge. I want to feel their passion. I want to understand their vision and the strategy that they're going to use to achieve success. That is what these interviews are for. I want to understand the share structure and the cap table, the size of the TAM, the total addressable market. This is the opportunity to learn all of those things. So sit back and enjoy. And if you learn anything from today's interview, do us a favor. Subscribe to the Alpha Wolf Trading YouTube channel. Hey everybody, Tim from Alpha Wolf Trading coming at you with another CEO interview. This is a pretty interesting story, turnaround story. And I have to admit, this gentleman has accomplished a hell of a lot more than I thought he was going to accomplish from the first time I spoke with him in such a short period of time. So Tom Whittenschlager from AYRO, AYRO, that is the ticker symbol, traded on the NASDAQ. Very compelling story in a unique space with a unique product that I think is positioned well. So Tom, first off, I want to thank you for taking the time to come in and share your story. And what I'd like you to do is give us a little bit of background on you and how you wound up here at AYRO, and we'll take it from there.
Well, Tim, thanks for the invite. And hey, I've been in the product business for 40 years. I'm a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy. I'm an electrical and a nuclear engineer, and I've been building product and starting at the Hughes Aircraft Company many years ago. Spent 16 years at Hughes, and everything from torpedoes to air traffic control to satellites. Then I got into the turnaround business as a product guy. I've been doing that for a couple of decades. And that turnaround business ended up with a number of plays in micromobility and in vehicles, one being at Fox Factories. You know, Fox Factories, the industry leader in off-road suspension products, and then a company called Nant Mobility, which built the Bugatti of the scooter world. So I ended up at AYRO because the company had tremendous potential. The board felt that it was that potential wasn't being realized, and they wanted a product guy and a vehicle guy to come in and stand it up in the right direction. And so they gave me a call. I moved to Texas from beautiful Florida, and here we are, Tim.
All right, so you moved to Texas, and how long ago was that, Tom?
That was a year and 2 months ago.
A year and 2 months ago. And I think I met you probably, I don't know, I want to say a month in, right? Right around there.
Pretty darn close. Yeah, my memory isn't perfect, but that sounds right.
Right. It was pretty close. And, and I'm not trying to poo-poo the prior management or anything of that sort, but they were definitely on the wrong path. But there were a couple of good things. One was you guys have had a fairly good cash position.
Well, we have a very good cash position. Right now, the great thing about my new management team is none of us are young people. We're all in our 60s. We've been doing this stuff for 4 decades. And of all the skills we have, the skill that is most important in this circumstance is knowing how not to spend money. And we have mastered that skill. So we're in a full-on development process. We're burning a fraction of what was being burned before, but more importantly, we're burning a fraction of what other electric vehicle companies in this space are burning at a time when we're actually in an all-out product development phase. So all the way around, the cash position today is $55.2 million. The company has no debt. And we have.
Let's highlight that. Wait, Tom. I want to highlight that for a second. The company has how much cash?
55.2 million, approximately.
And how much debt?
0.
Music to my ears. Okay, let's go on.
Okay, so the space we're in is a low-speed electric vehicle space. And you might say, why do you want to be in that space? Well, we want to be in that space because the space is big enough to make a company spectacularly successful without being so big that it attracts the tier 1 competitors. So we're not competing with Tesla and Rivian and Lordstown and Canoo and those guys. We're competing with people like golf cart providers like Club Car and EasyGo and Cushman and Yamaha. And we're competing in a space that can be best described as an oligopoly. And all of us know what happens in an oligopoly. People become, very content in what they're doing. And as they become content, they become vulnerable. And they become vulnerable to people that don't look at a commodity as a commodity. So the space that we're pursuing, the low-speed electric vehicle space, in our view, is ripe for disruption. And it's especially ripe for disruption for a team that knows how to do the appropriate technology insertion to change the competitive dynamic of that space.
Okay. So let's talk about what AYRO has coming. Let's talk about, over the last year, the platform that you've developed to really differentiate yourself from anything else out there.
So look, when I got here, the product was being imported from China in a broken down version. So it would come in as an integrated chassis, it would come in as a cab, we'd come in various pieces that we refer to as the payload portion of the vehicle. So if you think of a truck as a chassis, a cab, and a payload system, and you can interchange those kind of liberally, that's what was being imported from China. Well, if you think about what was happening, 2 things were happening. One is that the cost of shipping things across the Pacific rose by 700%. The second thing was that the import duties remain unchanged at 27.5%. So you come into a situation, you say, look, we're making the logisticians rich. We're not making a whole bunch of money. And the quality of this product is so tenuous that we have a warranty overhang. Well, none of those factors are antecedents to success. So we kind of decided, look, instead of spending money on logistics, let's invest that money in brand new product. Let's make OEM grade products for the low speed space. And by the way, let's do one other crazy thing. Let's source them all in North America, or source them all in either North America or Northern Europe. So our reliance on the Chinese supply chain goes to as close to 0 as we can make it. So that's the pivot we made. And that's the product we're developing. And
why is that music to my ears? Well, for a couple of reasons. Number one, they won't steal your intellectual property. That's a good thing, right?
I think so.
You're creating jobs right here in the good old US of A, and you're getting your materials from the good old US of A. That's that. How is this a bad story? And you're from Texas. I mean, come on.
Well, we're going to have two locations. Both of them, I think, are in the United States. One is called Texas, and the other one's called Florida.
Ah, Florida. That's interesting. Didn't you say you moved from Florida over to Texas?
I did. I don't have any value objection to living in a state with no income tax. So it just seemed to be not the worst idea one could have, right?
Right. Okay. So essentially you have the chassis, right? Which she has to be part of my meetings. So she gets very irritated if I ignore her. So
That's a great looking dog.
you got the chassis, and then when you think about what you can attach to the back, I mean, so you've got basically kind of the pickup truck style that you could have, but then you've got food delivery, right?
Yeah, that's a box. So we have a pickup bed, just like you said, Tim. We have a box bed, and that box can be powered or unpowered. If it's powered, you can put hot boxes, refrigerators, coffee makers, everything in the back. If it's unpowered, you can use it as a lockable box so that when you go to Home Depot, all your tools don't get stolen. We also have a stake bed. We also have a ladder rack configuration. We have a landscape configuration. And we have the pickup bed in both a light duty and in a heavy duty version. So if you think about it, it's an integrated chassis cab architecture, modern technology with a plurality of payload options. So you can do two things. Either you can use one vehicle at different times for completely different uses, same vehicle, you don't have to buy another one. Or on any given day, you can multiplex the exact same vehicle. Let's say you're two restaurateurs, and one restaurateur serves the lunch crowd, one restaurateur serves the dinner crowd. You can reconfigure your payload to match what it is you deliver or what you provide. And so you can share common vehicles, which we think is another great source of value that nobody else can offer.
So just, I mean, how far away are you from unveiling the actual unit?
So we're going to have the sneak peek, as vehicle manufacturers say, that will be next week.
Ooh.
And then the first ride and drive, where we will put our vehicle out there and we will put the competitive vehicles out there, and we'll set up a test course and let people drive our vehicle and other people's vehicles, conclude what they'll conclude. We already know what they're going to conclude. So that's going to be late in the first quarter.
Okay.
Because right now, Tim, what we have to do is finish development. We need to get our supply chain of all 500 parts coming in, and then we need to take these vehicles through homologation. So we need to crash them. We need to roll them. We need to crush them. Meet those standards, and then transition to low rate initial production, or LRIP.
Okay, so just kind of off the cuff here, thinking about practical applications for this, and you and I kind of talked. We met last week, and we talked about a couple of things. We talked about airports. We talked about college campuses. We talked about malls. I mean, you just start going through all the different potential uses, because this can get through double doors. Right?
Doors. Yeah, the vehicle is exactly 58 inches wide, and a standard double door is 60 inches.
Convention centers,
inside arenas, stadiums, any place where there's a double door. You can take it inside a hospital to shuttle stuff from one to shuttle all the McKesson equipment around, right? You can, but there are a couple other things, Tim, and that is that the vehicle is relatively lightweight. I mean, the whole vehicle weighs in at under 1,500 pounds, and it can carry 1,500 pounds of payload. So if you think about all those applications where weight matters, so for example, let's say you're running a marina and you have floating docks out there, and you need to get dock boxes and supplies up and down these docks. Well, you can't take a pickup truck, it weighs too much. But so you can either hire 4 very large Southern men to carry dock boxes up and down the dock, or you can get one of ours, put all your stuff on the back, shuttle it down the docks, and it's light enough that it won't cause any damage. But by the same token, you can use it on golf courses. It won't damage anything. You can use it on resort properties. It won't damage anything. And so all the way around.
And how many retirement communities are there that have, I mean, it's golf course community, right? I mean, I'm just thinking of a place that's real close to me here in Vegas, Southern Highlands Golf Club. And I mean, I think everybody in that whole neighborhood is, got some kind of fancy golf cart, right?
Well, they're about to find out what fancy really means. And so, well, if you look in my home state, there's a community that is the largest retirement community in the world. It's called the Villages. And the Villages, which is just northwest of Orlando, has one today. It's growing like crazy. But today it has 150,000 affluent retirees, all of whom, not all, but the lion's share of whom drive golf carts and golf carts that are pretty low end. So, and here in Texas, we have Sun City, that's 75,000. There's Peachtree City in Atlanta, south of Atlanta, that's 75,000. So you start adding it up and you say, and you just ask the question, is there a place for a super premium, all electric, multi-purpose transport in these places, whether it's a truck, whether it's a people mover, ultimately, whether it's a personal transport vehicle? It's all the same technology. And if you believe there is a spot for a premium platform, then what we're doing should be very interesting. If you don't believe it, then it's not so interesting. But we happen to believe that there's a tremendous opportunity for premium platforms in a commoditized space.
So how would you go to market with a product like this? What strategy do you have to actually go to market and try and make people aware of what it is that you have?
So we have several distinct channels. So first of all, we have the classic dealer channel. So we will sign up dealers, and the dealers will sign up will be dealers who represent a plurality of brands. So they might have, Club Car, E-Z-GO, Cushman, they might have Yamaha, they might have BRP, Polaris, and others. So there will be a dealer network channel. That will be one channel to market. The second channel to market will be upfitters. So the upfitters are guys like Gallery Carts, our partner, who takes our vehicles, puts a food pod on the back of it, and then resells it to NFL stadiums, to NBA teams, to people in the sports entertainment world. So they're upfitters, and we expect them to continue being our customers. They've been our customer for quite a while. And it's a different category that gets vehicles to market. The third category is the direct category. So from our website, we will have an e-commerce site. On that site, you will be able to custom configure your very own vehicle. And once it is custom configured, we can ship direct from Florida, because Florida is one of the states that allows direct sales that do not require a dealer network. That is not true in Texas. It is true in Florida. That's the reason we're going to have a second location in Florida. And then the final channel is through government integrators into the government market and into the GSA. And so if you think about it, the government has sustainability requirements and they have Buy American requirements. We will most likely be the only low-speed electric vehicle that meets both Made in America, Buy American, and all the necessary sustainability statutes to make us, in other words, they can buy our vehicle and check off the sustainability objectives on their annual plans. And if we sell them the vehicle, the base vehicle, of course, for $25,000 or less, they can also buy it on their government credit card without review.
I'm sorry, for how much or less?
$25,000 or less.
Isn't that about where the price the price range is on this vehicle?
Yes.
Boy, that's crazy how that worked out, huh?
Well, it was a lucky guess.
So let me ask you a question. That $25,000 that you just mentioned, is that just for the base, the stripped down complete, basically the chassis, or is that?
So, yeah. So Tim, every vehicle we build is a premium vehicle. So there is no stripped down version. All the vehicles are fully featured. They're current technology and they're drop dead gorgeous. Okay. Now, what's different for each vehicle is what you're going to use it for.
Right.
And that's the payload piece.
Okay.
So the payload is separate, but the base chassis is common. And we're doing that so that as we pour more and more chassis into the marketplace, we're going to see our cost of goods sold come down because we'll be coming down the learning curve through bulk purchasing. So we'll keep that part identical and all the customization will be done at the payload level.
Okay. And I would imagine that that's where the margins will be.
That's exactly right. So, and it's that way in this business. It is on the vehicle itself, the margins are thin. On the custom portion of it, the margins are impressive. The blended margin is attractive.
Right. Okay. And you're rolling out the sneak peek next week.
That's right. I've got people crawling all over right in the factory right now.
So is there a I mean, is this gonna be a web hosted, televised, or streamed event, or what?
Yeah, it'll be a web hosted product unveil, and really the purpose of the sneak peek is to show people the elegance of the componentry that we've put on this thing. So it's going to feature, we have an amazing motor, we have amazing wheels and tires. It's hard to get excited about tires until you really get into it.
I don't want to talk about tires right now, Tom.
And the bottom line is the purpose of the unveil is really to illustrate that there isn't a piece of this that we haven't thought about, and there isn't a piece of this that we haven't poured engineering resources into to create something that is very, very distinct from the commoditized stuff that's in the market today.
So when we talked last week, there was one thing that really stuck out in my mind, because we talked about, if let's say somebody in a rural area winds up, buying one of these things direct from your site. They get shipped out from Florida, but he's got no warranty or dealership that's anywhere near close to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he has an issue. And I thought what you told me was pretty cool. Is it basically, well, why don't you go ahead and share what you told me?
Well, so look, there's a couple ways anybody can get service on the vehicle. But first of all, there's almost no service the vehicle will ever require. The only service a vehicle will ever require in its lifetime is brakes. Other than that, there's nothing on this thing to break, which is kind of interesting. But let's say nonetheless there's an issue. There are a couple different ways we can get to them. First of all, out on the factory floor, right next to the engineering pod, we've built a studio. And in that studio, we put a vehicle. And so any issue a customer has, we can light up the studio, illustrate the vehicle, have them log onto a WebEx. We'll walk through what they're seeing. We'll do it live, and we'll show them how to fix it live streamed from the factory. Because we can live stream it from the factory, it means we don't have to put anybody on an airplane. It means we don't have to burn any jet fuel. It means we don't have to spend that money, and we can give them an answer much, much faster. And so if for whatever reason that doesn't resolve the issue, we'll send them to the nearest dealer. And if that doesn't work, we will put somebody on an airplane. But the way we've set it up is to minimize the support cost of resolving routine things, right?
Okay. So, I mean, do these things have like air conditioning?
They do.
They have air
They're made
conditioning.
by Eberspacher. They're
And
really cool.
yeah, that is pretty cool. So, I mean, all the stuff that you would get in a normal vehicle is what you're going to have available in these vehicles.
Well, it's, not everything, Tim.
Not everything. Okay.
I mean, this is a low-speed
Nothing.
electric vehicle, and it's meant to be used as a utility vehicle or a personal transporter. So a lot of stuff that's in the car is extra stuff because cars can go 100-something miles an hour.
Right.
If your speed is limited by law to 25 miles per hour, it means you can shed a lot of stuff that in addition to being safety is just extra weight, which makes the vehicle a whole lot more efficient. So it doesn't have everything, but it has essentially everything you would see in a motor vehicle.
So let's talk about the top speed on these things. So it has a governor on it, right?
It has a governor.
It has a governor, which is going to keep it,
25 miles per hour.
25 miles
It's
per
the
hour.
law for an LSV.
I mean, just not that I'm recommending this at all, but I mean, if the governor somehow were to fall off, how fast would it go then?
It would go really fast. Of course, we would never, ever support such a notion because that would be in violation of the law.
Yeah, I could understand that.
But the motor that we're getting is coming from a company that has amazing winding technology. And so if somebody were to illegally hack the control system of the vehicle,
Right,
and overcome the governor of the motor, you could expect this vehicle to go over 50 miles an hour.
interesting, very interesting. Do they all have to be white? Because white's pretty boring color, Tom.
Well, our white isn't white. Our white is blue white. So when you go into the spectrum of white, okay, you start with soft white, which is 2000, 3000 Kelvin. And then you go to bright white, which is 5000 Kelvin. And then you go to this blue white, which is like 6000. So blue white is like white with just enough blue that it starts to look bluish, sheenish. It's a gorgeous color, by the way.
Okay.
And so that's our stock color. Our stock color is blue. It is not the white you see on a golf cart today. No, totally different. Okay.
All right.
One of our customization options will be if a customer wants it at University of Southern California colors, if they want it University of Washington colors, if they want it, Florida Gators, they can get it customized, and they can get the color customized. They can get the upholstery, the seats customized. They can get the side plate on the pickup bed water jetted to match the logo they want. So all that customization will be possible for sure, but we're going to launch with blue white, with a gray and black two-tone interior, and a black and bamboo bed. It's really beautiful. Yeah, it's a really pretty. It's a pretty vehicle.
Okay, so you're gonna have your dealers, and I would imagine that you've probably have you had any test vehicles out in any test markets with anybody?
Not yet, Tim, because we're really serious about one thing. That is, I don't want to put anything in the field until we've gone through homologation and until we've tested it. And we've engineered it, and we know that we know this is a top quality vehicle. We just want to make sure there's nothing in it that could, for any reason, cause it to create an unsafe condition. So we want to complete that process before we start rolling stuff into the field.
So let me ask you, are you contracting the manufacturing of the vehicle out to someone else, or is that something that you have a facility that is large enough to produce these vehicles?
No, we're gonna do final assembly and integration right here in Round Rock, Texas. I'm in that facility right now, and we'll get subsystems from different people.
Okay.
And all the major subsystems will come from North America. And we have electrical subsystems, we have frames, we have, we're not going to do welding and tube bending and fab here, but we'll take delivery of those products and then assemble them here.
Okay.
So yes, the 75% of that, let's call it raw manufacturing, will be in North America between the US and Canada. And then the rest of it, there will be, the additional will be knits and gnats in Northern Europe, which will really comprise largely the United Kingdom, Germany, and Spain.
Do you have a rough idea of what your manufacturing capabilities would be? I mean, how many units could you pump out a month?
Well, here in Round Rock, without expanding, and right now I'd really like to not expand because our lease is under market here and we have a perfectly good facility. And I like the words under market because it means it saves money when you build stuff. But in the facility we can build 6 per day.
6 per day.
Correct.
Okay. That's a decent amount, right? I mean, I guess the biggest, it would be fantastic to have a problem where, you know, you're getting a call for 20 a day. I mean, that'd be a good problem to have.
We have a plan for dealing with that, but the reason we want to start right here in Round Rock is if you're integrating your own product and assembling your own product, you really get to understand it.
Right.
And if you really understand it, you're in a place where you can make smart decisions about updates you want to make, model year changes you want to make, or other features you might want to add. When you rely on someone else to do that, the fact is you're 1 degree removed from intimate knowledge of the vehicle, and that's not a good thing.
All right, so let's talk about, we already established the fact that you've got a nice cash balance and 0 debt. How many shares outstanding fully diluted does AYRO have?
You know what, approximately, Tim, because I don't know.
It doesn't have to be
call it 37.1 million roughly.
37.1 million, which I believe anything under 100 million is thin. To me that's thin, right? Yes. 37 million shares is not, you have not done a death spiral financing to put yourself at 500 million shares, right? So I mean, this is a very manageable.
As attractive as that would be, we've chosen not to do it.
Yeah, attractive. I'm sure that sounds real attractive. You know, I don't know if everybody can see the different types of trucks, but you know, I think this concept of having one chassis and the ability to put all these different packages together on this is fantastic, right? I mean, and then you start really thinking about the areas that these could be used. It's like mind-boggling, really. I mean, every stadium's got them, every convention center's got them, every hotel has got them, like well, at least the megas here in Vegas, right? I mean, any big resort has got them. I would imagine Disneyland's got them. I'm just going off the top of my head here.
And your private jet port would have them, right?
There is
familiar with that, Tim.
There is a whole bunch of practical uses for this. Now, my question to you would be 25 grand. I mean, that sounds to me, that sounds like, you know, I mean, that's more than some of the combustion engine vehicles out there, right? So that doesn't sound to me like it's a super cheap bargain. It sounds to me like it's a little up there.
Well, it's, you know, it's all comparative, right? So if you compare it to a commoditized, let's call it converted golf cart, okay? Right. First of all, there are none that are going to have the features we have. That's number one. Number two, there's none that'll have the payload we have. And there's none that'll have the horsepower or the torque that we have. All that said, it's not unusual at all for an equivalent commoditized golf cart to cost 20. Now, we believe, you know, all in out the door will be, you know, just north of 30 with everything installed. But the difference between a vehicle that's a real utility vehicle and a vehicle that's a very, very underpowered golf cart equivalent, there's a big difference there. And 10 grand at that point, in our view, is pretty modest for the difference.
Okay, so how long does, I don't know if I asked you this before, but on a full charge, do you have any idea how long these things will run?
So Tim, it depends on two things. It depends on how much load you put on it, and it depends on how hilly your environment is.
Okay.
So a good thumb rule to use with our vehicle is its daily tactical range will be in the order of 50 to 60 miles.
50 to 60 miles?
Yeah, and when you think about how far you'll actually go per day, it's way under that.
Right. I think the average person drives 35 miles a day, right? That's the average person, not the outside sales guy that's hitting, but for the average person to go to work and come back or go to the store, 35 miles round trip, right?
Yeah.
So that 50 miles is plenty, right?
Oh, it's actually plenty. And the other thing, Tim, just to remember, is when you finally get it home,
Yeah.
you don't need a special charging infrastructure. You don't need to spend tens of thousands of dollars to build a special converter, charger, inverter into your home. You get it home, stick it in your garage, and plug it into the wall. By morning, it's fully
Into
charged.
your regular wall outlet.
Regular wall outlet, 115/20.
So
Specific.
and so I would imagine a generator would do the same thing.
Oh yeah, of course, you bet.
Right. So which is another interesting, I would say, positive feature, right?
Yeah.
My dog is driving me nuts right now. She really
Trying to
hates
get a
being left
mistake.
out of a meeting.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
I don't know. I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking to myself, this is a far cry from where this company was a year and 2 months ago. A year and 2 months ago, I don't think they had a very clear focus of where they were going and how they were getting there. I see a whole different company. I see a whole different vision and strategy, right? And it sounds like are you looking at, okay, so you do the reveal, the peak, and then you got to do the testing and the smashing and the rolling and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time frame, do you put some of these out into the marketplace for different types of uses, like landscapers or
Tim, we got it. It's really on us to get through homologation first, and we have to make sure that what we put out there, that we understand what we're putting out there. That's really important from a liability overhang point of view.
Okay.
And, I mean, we've engineered it to be really, really good, but we just want to prove it to ourselves first before we give it to anybody. Now, we may drive around and show it to some dealers.
Okay.
We may do some, very limited reveals, in person, but we really want to get through that process first. I think it's the right thing to do.
No, that makes sense. And when do you, best case scenario and worst case scenario for getting through that process?
It should take us 12 weeks.
Okay.
But I mean, look, we all know sometimes there's just things you can't anticipate.
Beyond your control.
So, let's just say that second quarter start of sales looks pretty good. Worst case, maybe a couple months later.
Right. Third quarter. I mean,
but certainly
bottom line
not,
is you want to make sure
3 years, right?
Right. You want to make sure you go to market with a solid, I mean, you get one shot, really, right? You get one shot to make an impression. So if you're going to do that, you want to make sure you make the best impression. So, I mean, look, I think you want to take your time and you don't want to rush. But you're in a fantastic position. Can you think of anybody else that's even remotely close to doing what you're doing?
Well, there's a company in Germany called Garia, Garia. They were just acquired by Club Car. And Garia did a very elegant collaboration on a golf car with Mercedes-Benz.
Okay.
And they have a very cool looking golf cart. It's almost as good looking as ours, but it really isn't. And it weighs in, Tim, at $65,000.
Whoa.
So
boy.
So let's just say that I'm really happy for them. And I think they're going to learn a little lesson in design when we roll ours out. And I mean, it's nothing wrong to have a beauty contest, and by God, we're going to win it. And you know, whether people want to acknowledge it or not, the simple truth is when you buy a vehicle, the styling means everything.
Right.
Nobody wants to drive around in an AMC Gremlin, right?
No.
So we have really put phenomenal effort into the technology. We've put phenomenal effort into the specs, making it as light as possible. But we have put a massive effort into the styling, and I believe, you know, again, reasonable people can look at it differently, but I believe the effort we've put into the styling is going to be very well received by the target market.
Well, I can tell you, I'm excited just to see the reveal, right? I mean, I am excited to see it, and I'm just guessing, but if you're doing a reveal, I would imagine that you're going to have a reveal with different cabs on the back, right? I mean, you're going to have multi-purpose, so you're not going to just do one. Here's the chassis. I mean, you're gonna wow some people. Come on.
You know what, Tim, you only have to wait a week. You'll get the answer to your own question.
Yeah. Okay. One week.
But I will tell you this. We are going to reveal it with our flatbed. And the reason we're going to reveal it with our flatbed is that we have designed, I mean, if you think about this obsession with every detail of a vehicle, we even obsessed over the flatbed. The flatbed, first of all, is aluminum. It has tracks in it, so you can lock down anything on that flatbed anywhere. And on both sides of it, it has built in a bamboo work table, both on the right side and on the left side. And it is simply spectacular. And you say, how in the world can you get excited over a flatbed? Well, just wait a week. Tell me what you think.
All right. I'm looking forward to it. You're getting Coco excited. I can tell you that.
We'll lock down a dog dish on it for him.
All right, Tom, listen, I'm trying to think if I've missed anything. Do you feel as though maybe there's something you want to highlight? It's in particular that I haven't covered.
Well, just if I could comment on one thing, Tim, and that is this whole subject of sustainability, and the whole subject of sustainability and social responsibility, in addition to building great products, in addition to building things that people love. And, you know, there's two ways of looking at this whole area of sustainability. There's this one way where you say, look, I'm going to design things and build them, and I'm going to make them sustainable because I'm going to make them out of materials like bamboo. Why did we use bamboo? We use bamboo because bamboo is the ultimate sustainable material. People think, oh, it's a wood. No, it's not a wood. Bamboo's a weed, okay? It's a weed. And you cut it and you turn it into planks, and the next summer, it's back up to full size. It's like the ultimate sustainable material. Aluminum, melt down, you can reuse everything. Our body panels, we chose a material that when you cut the panel out of the mold, that is not discarded. It's not excess or waste. We picked a material where you grind it all up, you reformulate it, you reuse it. There's no scrap. So in our process, we were really serious about minimizing waste and maximizing reuse, which, by the way, is just good engineering, but it also happens to be good social responsibility. That's a very, very different reality from people that say, look, I build this completely wasteful thing, but then I buy carbon offsets by running a class on sustainability at some great school in Idaho. And you go, no. carbon offsets is not the same as sustainable design. And so I wanted to make that distinction because there's so many folks out there that are using an offset strategy in lieu of doing things the right way. And we're doing everything we can to do things the right way. And
you are an ESG friendly company in a big way, and not just the way you're manufacturing them, but also for anybody that buys your vehicle, that is also an ESG play for them, right? That's lowering their carbon footprint, right?
Yeah, it's lowering their cost too.
It's lowering their costs too.
Yeah, the cost of operating one of these is, less than 40% of the cost of operating a gas equivalent. So for us, the real magic is if your tactical diameter every day, the distance you have to go in what you do is 50 miles or less, and one very important thing, and you can take a route where the speed limit on the streets is 35 miles per hour or less. Those two have to both be met. Then this is an ideal vehicle. If those cases aren't met, then other alternatives are better. But we think, if you look at the number of cases where that is relevant and the number of cases where emissions and weight matter and reuse matters, I think there's a really significant market for this.
So, I'm just thinking about what you just said there, 35 miles an hour or under, right? So if I'm just trying to think of, for example, these DoorDash guys and these guys that sell that deliver food, right, from fast food places. So is your vehicle okay to be on a road where it's over? I guess the only road that would be over 35 miles, well, no, over 45 miles an hour, right? I mean,
right. So a way to kind of build a picture in your mind is for those last mile deliveries that go inside of cities, this is a perfect vehicle. If you have to go out of the city, this is not your vehicle.
This is right. If you have to get on the freeway, can't do it.
No, this is not your vehicle.
Right.
But when you look at you take Fifth Avenue, right, in New York City, or Madison Ave, and you have your Bugatti Veyron, which is a 220 mile per hour vehicle. You're going down Fifth Avenue at 6 miles an hour. Now you're going to be looking good doing it, but you're going to be burning cash like a drunken sailor in Manila, right?
Right.
So in that environment, this is a great vehicle, and it's a great vehicle for one other reason, and that is it takes up less than half the space of a regular car.
I was just going to say that. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can pack more in. So, I mean, it's our view that the applications where this is a total no-brainer are abundant enough to make the business really, really successful.
Right. I can see, and that's why we're having this conversation. That's why we're having this. I don't interview companies that I don't think eventually are going to make their shareholders money. And being that you have a strong cash position, because if you're a smaller micro cap right now that needs cash, you're probably not sleeping, right? Mm-hmm. You're not in that position. You don't have a boatload of debt. You don't have a bloated share count. You have an experience. Now, I know your background. What about your team? You have an impressive team.
My team's really good. I have 2 Annapolis grads, 1 West Pointer. My head of engineering came from TRW, ZF, and Honeywell. My head of operations he started as a tool and die maker 42 years ago. This guy not only knows how to run a factory, he knows how to build tools that go into the factory. Okay. And the baby of the group is my CFO at 42, who we rib mercilessly and ask him whether he's shaving yet. So, we've got a team whose credentials are unimpeachable and whose accomplishments are documented. So, and by the way, it's a small team. It's not a huge team. And again, knowing how not to spend money, a lot of us have collateral duties. Rather than hiring one additional person, we just take on that collateral duty ourselves and keep the team very, very small, which means keeping our burn rate totally under control. I mean, that's our whole approach to this while we get this product built.
Okay. I want to talk about your chart. And, I'm going to let everybody know, I've always been a fundamental guy. I was not a chart guy. I didn't even understand why looking at a chart would mean anything to anybody ever about where a company was going. I could see where the company came from, but where it was heading, I didn't see how reading a chart was going to help me with that. But then I took a course 15 years ago, and the first thing I look at is the chart. And because they are incredibly accurate, it's really a matter of price memory, supply and demand, and support and resistance. That's what it all comes down to. And what's interesting about this chart is, it is not a pretty chart. I mean, if you were in this stock has this always been AYRO? I mean, I don't know the history of the stock itself, but has it always been AYRO?
No, it hasn't. This company started back in 2017 with the name of AEV, and that stood for Austin Electric Vehicle.
Okay.
And then it did a reverse.
It did 1, 2, 3 reverses
into the public markets.
Okay.
And ticker symbol AYRO, and a raise. And the whole time I've been here, obviously, we've been AYRO, and we've been right here. And so the history is a long one, but the company went through a couple different iterations, of building different things, getting things from different sources, and offering different products to market. When I got here, the company was pursuing a high-speed 3-wheeled vehicle for last mile delivery. And, unfortunately for me, I actually studied physics in college, and I understand 3-wheel dynamics. And the bottom line is 3-wheel platforms, have a really substantial liability overhang, because the physics rarely works in 3 wheels. And the physics is even worse when you have 17 and 18-year-old kids driving deliveries all over town
with a lot of torque.
Yeah, and you have a 3-wheeled vehicle that doesn't have the same stability characteristics as a 4-wheeled vehicle. So, looking at the whole thing, it was just one of those where you said, no. Let's pick a really boring segment that's not interesting to any of the tier ones. Let's build a superlative platform in that segment. Let's ultimately come to be the pinnacle platform in that segment, and let's let the market value how we did at doing that. And we're much more comfortable with that model because the segment we're in today, in my view, doesn't have a premium platform, and I think it's ripe for one.
So let's talk about, so you came in, what, that would have been
October of 2021.
October of 2021. So, we're about to come up into 23. What's interesting is, so, you had this decline, but it's been really, the price of the stock has been trading what I like to call in a box, right? You've kind of just been bouncing in between, let's call it 65 cents, which seems to be the wall, right? 65 cents is it goes up, it taps it, and then it comes back down. And right up to about 50 cents, right? So that's the range that the stock has been trading in since October. And that is what I call building a launching pad or a platform. I like to call it a launching pad because the wider that base gets, the higher the launch, right? So if I'm looking at this now, I'm saying to myself, okay, it's testing the bottom of this box. Now, if it breaks below that area, I think that would be all-time lows. You'd be breaking into the all-time lows. And that is problematic only because you don't have anything to look at on the left-hand side to see where support would be. Now,
Mhm.
that's in a market like this, that's where, the shorts and guys have a field day because, well, there's no support. So they're going to try and push it as low as it can go. But here's my thought. What is the risk reward of this trade, right? Where you can lose 50 cents, and that's if you lose the 52 million you have in the bank and you go absolutely bankrupt. I don't think the odds of that are very high. I think the odds of that are extremely low. So then the flip side of this is, well, how high can it go? You don't have any real resistance to the upside until you get to about like 80, what is that? 80 cents, 80 cents. And then the $1 mark is always it's always the big one because you're going from being a penny stock to a $1 stock. Now, the one issue that you probably have is you've probably gotten a letter from the NASDAQ saying you've got X amount of time, 180 days to get your stock back above a buck, right?
Correct.
However, once you get to the end of the 180 days, you can then resubmit if you haven't gotten back above the buck and get an extension of another 180 days as long as you have a good viable plan, right?
Exactly right.
Okay. Then, if by then you haven't somehow achieved getting back above a buck, there is always the dreaded reverse split that everybody hates. But I don't hate reverse splits, actually. I happen to like them, depending on how the reverse split happens. If it's from a position of strength, that's fine. Shrink up the float. That's fine with me. That just means that whoever wants to buy shares is going to have to pay up to get them because there's less shares. That's my feeling. Now, I'm not saying that you should do it or I want you to go there. I'm just saying you have options. It's not like you guys are, on the verge of getting kicked off the NASDAQ. Just when it makes that clear to everybody, right?
Right.
So we know that you're going to do the reveal and then you're going to have, maybe a couple of months, end of the first quarter, you're shooting for when you're actually going to be maybe going to market. Could take into the second quarter, third quarter. Eventually you're going there, right? I mean, you're in the final phases of locking this down.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Okay. So I look at it, if that's the case, what is the risk reward? Where can it go back to? I think it goes to a buck. If it goes to a buck and closes above a buck, your next area of resistance is going to be somewhere around a buck, buck 25. But then you've done two things. You've taken out the long-term trend line, which is the dominant trend, and that's the one that goes from the upper left to the lower right. When you break that trend, that is a very powerful break. And because you're changing momentum, you're changing what has been momentum for years in a downward trend. You break that to the upside, that it could be the indication that you're now starting a new long-term trend, but it's going the opposite direction. It's going from the lower left to the upper right, and that can last a really long time. Finding that breaking point is a very exciting spot for me because it means there's a change. There's a new sheriff in town, and there's a whole new dynamic to this company. And I can tell you that the dynamic of this company has changed significantly since you came on board, right? And your team, much more focused, a viable product, a very simplistic product in a way because it has one chassis, but it can be many, many different things. So
Right.
I think this is an exciting space. I'm not telling anybody to buy the stock. That's not what I do. I present facts and I present stories and why I believe that this is a differentiator, why I think this is something that you want to pay attention to. This story has been a bad story for many years, and there will be a lot of people that will say, oh, AYRO, garbage company. That may have been the case back then. This is a different company. This is a different management team. This is a different story. So I would suggest putting this on your radar. If you don't want to buy the stock today, that's entirely up to you. I would say this would be a great spot to start dipping your toe, right? I'm not telling anybody to go all in, but why wouldn't you just dip your toe here with a risk reward of 50 cents? They go bankrupt, $3 is, I think, a very reasonable number to head up to. I say, I say 3 because I see some resistance up there at 3. So I could see that happening in quick fashion. So what I would do, and I've got the email address right over here, or over there, and sign up for their investor alerts, right? You get any SEC filing, any press release that comes out, the reveal, the sneak peek, sign up for it and keep this company on your radar. See if Tom does what he says he's going to do, right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Does Tom execute? Tom and his team execute? And I can tell you this, you executed a hell of a lot faster than I thought you were going to from when I first met you and the position that the company was in. So
I appreciate the compliment, but we've been doing this for 30 years. So
well, it impressed me because I thought, and I'm not bullshitting you. I walked away after meeting you and I thought, man, he's got a tough road ahead of him, because it was a very, very scattered, I felt, company at that time. But you have narrowed it down. You're right, the 3-wheel thing, and I'm thinking there's another 3-wheel guy out there. And I just didn't really understand it, right? I didn't understand the concept. This, I completely understand. It's not that hard. And when you start thinking of all the different applications, there is a huge market there, right? Huge market. And you're going to offer things that don't exist really right now, right? That don't have all of the bells and whistles that you guys can put on these things. So I think there are going to be new markets that are going to be opened up for these things specifically, right? I think that's a very possible thing to happen. I mean, I think about food trucks or snow cone or ice cream trucks. I mean, there's all kinds of things that go through my head. So I think the opportunities for you guys are limitless, really. And that's
we think you're right. We think you're right, you know, and remember too that the one thing I didn't talk about at all was fleet deals. And, you know, one of our fleet partner is a company called Element, and Element is the biggest fleet operator in the world. They have 1 million vehicles under management. So were it to come to pass that Element put together a fleet deal for us, then, you know, we're going to be in a different place at that point in time.
right. No, so I mean, look, I think this is a fantastic. Go sign up for their investor alerts. I'm sure, Tom, you are accessible to somebody that's serious about potentially investing. You'd be happy to take a call anytime, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, I mean, of course, anytime I'm not, you know, on an airplane, I'm happy to chat. We're at that point of development. These vehicles are comprised of just north of 500 discrete parts. And if you think about what it takes to synchronize the incoming supply chain for 500 discrete pieces, it's actually mathematically pretty hard. And so if 499 come in, we still can't build the vehicle. We need all 500.
Right.
So what that means is we're just a little bit busy right at the moment, Tim. But we're happy to take calls, and we're certainly happy to answer questions for your base of subscribers.
Okay. All right, Tom. I listen, I want to thank you for coming in and telling the story. We'll watch out for the sneak peek. And then the next time, I guess, when you feel as though you've got something significant, right, that's material, let's have you back and share that as well.
I think March is going to be a good month to talk.
What's that?
I think March will be a great month to talk.
March sounds good. So let's make sure we do that. Okay.
Tim, thank you again. We sure appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. Let me, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to cut it off. You feel as though we've covered everything? You don't have anything else? All right.
I think we've been pretty thorough.
Okay. Hold on one second. Thank you for coming in and listening to this interview with Tom Whittenschlager from AYRO on the NASDAQ, ticker symbol AYRO. I hope you enjoyed today's interview, and if you did, please do us a favor and give us a like. How about giving us a share? And while you're at it, why not give us a follow? Until next time, stay safe. Alpha Wolf Trading wishes you the very best of success.